All right, welcome back to Par None Podcast. We are on episode 2. I'm Ryan Hernandez with my co-host PJR. If you miss what PJR stands for, you have to go back and watch episode number 1 because I'm not going to tell you what it stands for. So that's a good way to get you to watch our first episode. Then come back here and watch episode 2. So that's what we'll do with that. So it's been kind of a hectic week for me. We were supposed to have this out yesterday and filmed on Sunday, and then I went and had a baby last Friday. So I've been out of commission, and so it's kind of hard to film a 2-person podcast when one person hasn't slept for 4 days. So I'm finally feeling back to normal.
It's really funny that you said, like, I was out of commission because I had a baby. You made it sound like you were the one that birthed it.
Yeah, no, I did. It was a lot of work. I'm very, very tired.
All natural?
Yeah, no, my wife birthed the baby. Sorry, number 3, another girl. Yeah, no, I put in zero work as far as birthing goes, but I'm still very tired. So whatever that's
Having
worth.
kids is exhausting.
So true. So I have 3 girls now. And yeah, they're great. Everybody's healthy, but I'm very tired. So hopefully we'll be on a regular schedule going forward. I do not plan on having any more kids anytime soon, so full steam ahead podcast-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, but
I thought you were going to
let's jump. No, I had no jokes for that one, unfortunately. So we guess we're going to jump into the PGA Tour here. I just want to point out that I was hyping Rosie up, and he took it home. Congratulations, Rosie, in your Frankenstein bag. That is 4 out of 5 for Paradym. If you need any more convincing, I can't do it at this point. He had the Tour CBs and MBs from Cobra in his bag as well, which is, we got him back there. Which are, Paradym, you do Paradym fairway. Oh, you have the test clubs. Nice. He had the Tour, he had the Cobra irons in the bag too. Probably going to stay there, I imagine, now after that. They're just sleeper irons this year. They were nice. Cobra and we just don't vibe. Nothing against them personally. I just don't feel it.
Yeah, that's fair. I totally understand that. But I think a lot of people don't realize Rose actually played Cobra irons when he was really young and then kind of got away from it, and then got into Homa, other things, kind of back where he started full circle.
Yeah. And I was back to he was the TaylorMade guy forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he went to Homa, or Homa, however you can say that. Just going to say every iteration of the word so we don't get corrected.
So we just get all of the pronunciations. And he's got a really weird putter, and I can't remember what the brand is. I just read it. But he's like designing a putter with a company, and it might be
Avis, AVIS, I think, or something like that. But he's been using it.
Place?
Yeah, like the car rental place. Maybe now I feel like that's wrong now that you say that. But he had putting struggles for the longest time. When he had that putter made for him, he finally started putting better. He went to the Claw for a while, and that's where he got to number 1 in the world. And like kind of touched on last week, once he hit number 1 in the world, he took the Homa deal, and then he kind of fell off for a little bit. It's good to have him back. One thing I love about watching Rosie play is it kind of reminds me of like old Jason Day. That the focus he has when he's out there, like there's some golfers you can just tell are super invested in every golf shot, and they take every golf shot very seriously. And I feel like Rosie does that exceptionally well, better than most. There's some people you see get up there and you can tell they're having fun. They're out there. You can tell he still wants to win. I mean, he hasn't signed the LIV deal, and they probably offered him a fat check to do it. That tells me that his priorities are he still thinks he can win majors and he can still win on the PGA Tour. And not taking a stab at the LIV guys.
Yeah.
We'll get into that a little bit, but I think he still believes he can be a top dog in golf again. And I hope he can. I have nothing against Rosie. I've always liked him. I have no beef with him.
I do too. Yeah, and I don't know if you saw his Instagram today. It was something that was really cool. Is he I don't know if it's his office or whatever. He has this huge trophy case and like a real a hole in the middle of it that is like our shelf that's missing a trophy. And he said before the season started, this was my motivation is to fill this spot. And he's like, but I have to reset my goals because I've already won. So he moved trophies around and left that spot open, even though he has the Pebble Beach now. So I thought that was just kind of cool. It kind of just speaks to exactly what you were saying of
He's driven.
I reached that goal. Now it's time to reset and go after something else. So I don't know. I mean, a little too early, but it'd be fun to see him compete in majors and maybe be there on the final day.
I could see him winning somewhere. I could see him winning an Open. I mean, the Open courses are always set up for everybody to win. I think that's probably why it's my favorite major, is you never know who's going to win. It could be, it could be like Darren Clark could win it kind of thing. It could also be like Victor Hovland. Right. It kind of covers everything. So I could see him winning an Open. I feel like he has a green jacket in him. I don't know why. I feel like Augusta sets up for him. He's been in contention a few times. He knows the course. He's played it enough. I feel like he could pull off a green jacket. I think he can win the Masters. I think he's out as far as the U.S. Open or PGA Championship goes. I think those courses have almost gotten exclusively to people that can hit the ball a long way, hit the ball really high and land it soft. I mean, there's a big advantage to the guys that can hit an 8-iron into those greens opposed to the person hitting a 6-iron into those greens. And this is just how those tournaments are set. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just not going to bet on that horse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, Bryson proved that, which basically he even said, like, I'm just going to try and hit it as far as I can, and I'd rather hit a pitching wedge out of the rough than a 5-iron out of the fairway. And
Kepka said the same thing too.
Like him or hate him, he proved us right with that because he went and won it. So, I mean, I don't know if Rosie wins the U.S. Open, that's for sure, but Augusta would be fun. Although it's really hard to bet against the GOAT or just want anybody else than the GOAT to compete and win the Masters.
Well, in the Masters has so many people that have contended there year in, year out that are due for a green jacket. And some of them are scarred. Like, I actually have like a 5-year bet. I think I have 2 more years left on this bet that Rory's going to win the Masters. Now, I bet him like $100. And my buddy is convinced that he will never win a green jacket just because how that course just has completely – just pulled the rug out from underneath them, not once, but twice. I remember when Patrick Reed won it. And, that had to burn too, So, I mean, but right now I feel like Rory's game is in a very good place. Yeah, the fact that he lost to Reed kind of burns my ass a little bit, but it is what it is.
Right.
Like,
it didn't age well, if you will.
It's not age well. I think it has for Rory in the sense where Rory is still maintained some level of dominance in winning. And I feel like ever since Reed had won, he was one of those guys. And there's a lot of guys like they're trending. They win that big tournament, and then that's it. It's like they use all of their energy to win that, and it's like they have to reset the cycle. They don't really ride the momentum as well as other golfers do. They're not in contention week in, week out. Where I feel like Rory, at least now, I think his game is as strong as it's ever been. I think it's as well-rounded as it's ever been. One thing that people don't talk about with Rory that drives me crazy is just how good his chipping is. Everyone talks about how bad his putting. He is magical around the greens. I mean, because he had to be, because he couldn't putt. Like, I can relate to that 110%. My chipping used to be the best part of my game because I didn't want to have a 5-foot putt. I wanted the tap-in 2-foot putt. Like, so,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would love if Rory contended. I think that'd be awesome. And if he could finally kind of pull off whatever curse he has, that would be so awesome.
And he can just rub Norman's face in it, and I would love that so much. And he'd say something.
For sure. I think he would too.
Right after he won the RBC, he's like, that's one more than Norman. I'm just like, oh, God, that was so soon. Like, he didn't waste – it was like his third sentence after winning. He's like, one more than the you-know-who. Like,
yeah. It's funny that Rory will say those things and kind of like, I don't know, kind of get away with it, whereas another more like brash – I don't know if it's just because he's the poster boy of the PGA Tour or just because he has kind of that like, like he's kind of got like that Irish – there's like a bit of a charm there.
He's always been that way, though. This isn't like a recent development of Rory. He's always been very quick to speak what's on his mind. He's not afraid to take a dig at people, but he also knows, all due respect, he's one of the greatest golfers to have ever lived. I mean, he has a picture-perfect golf swing. There's nothing he can't do. I mean, for other golfers, it's hard to back up that kind of talk, and I feel like Rory is one of the few guys out there in tour that can back it up more times than not. And I mean, he had that lull period because he got that injury from playing soccer. And it pissed me off how everyone gave him such a hard time for that. Like, oh, you're a golfer. And he's like, I have a life, guys. Like, I need to do other things. And he kind of fell away from golf and then came back and everything was fine. But, I think Rory can back it up. And I think him taking the stance against Liv is why he runs his mouth a little bit more. But, hey, it's good for business, apparently. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially with the Liv faction. Like, it's like extra drama, which I really love. Which I cannot wait for the Netflix documentary. It drops in like a week. Like I think a week from today.
February 15th. Let's go. Did you watch the trailer for it?
Let's go. I did, and I just like get hyped every single time I see it. Like, even a clip, I'm like, let's go.
Colts are getting pissed off in the locker room. I'm like, yes, this is like, I usually don't feed into this like real world type of stuff. No, one thing I've always wanted to see, and it's still one of these to this day I want to see, is I want to hear what the pros' thought process is. You know what I mean? Like, what are they? Yeah. I mean, like, okay, I get my yardage, like same things that we all do, but they're taking in other factors. That there's a reason why they're better than us, other than their obvious skill. But like, there's other thoughts that go into being a good golfer, and I want to know what those are. Like, how are you preparing? What is the work that you're putting in? Like, we all know you work hard, but what is it exactly? What is your formula for success? There's one thing I feel like we've never gotten from a PGA golfer. It's always been work hard, grind it out, persevere. I'm like, yeah, but what is like, what are the numbers? Like, we have the equation. I want to know what numbers you're putting into the equation.
It'll be so interesting. I think it's kind of like what all of us, just like hardcore golf fans, have been waiting for, because we get like the mic'd up conversations, but it's only just like a snippet. And now we're going to get, I think it's like 6 hours worth of episodes of just like, here's what happens. And I heard something, I can't remember, Dan Rappaport maybe was talking about like, they somehow were able to boil it down into 6 1-hour episodes, but they have like thousands of hours of footage because they were just everywhere all the time. So it'll be interesting to see what they got down. I'd love to see the B-roll of stuff that didn't make it.
Oh, I bet there's some nasty stuff on there. I guarantee there's some stuff like we need to cut that out immediately. No, for sure.
We cannot air this on Netflix.
Oh, I'm going to
go on Netflix. It's bad.
Oh, it's real bad.
Oh, for sure.
Disgusting stuff on Netflix. Like that one like really creepy pedo thing they had with those girls. My God. Like, why? Who thought that was a good idea? Like, that was.
Yeah, I did not watch that.
Neither. Well, obviously, I didn't either. Well, maybe it wasn't. I didn't watch it for.
Well, I didn't mean to insinuate that you did. Oh no, that's not what I meant, everybody. I'm so sorry.
But yeah, no. Congratulations to Rosie. People are kind of giving them the trouble because the field wasn't that tough. We're leading into the waste management, and it is a stacked field. It is so hard to pick. You want to obviously pick Rahm because he's been on a tear. He's from Arizona. He's an Arizona kid. Well, he's not from Arizona, but Arizona. You like him, but Rory. Going back to Rory, that course looks like something Rory should be able to eat alive. Yeah. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be able to. My dark horse pick, though, I'm getting this out the gate right now. I'm very excited about this pick. I'm going to go into why this guy is my pick, is Denny McCarthy. I don't know if you followed him the last day at Pebble Beach. He tore it up. He had like 6 birdies in 7 holes. He reminds me of how Sam Burns was like 3 years ago, just knocking on that door, putting up crazy low rounds. You're waiting for him to break through. He's going to do it eventually. Now, the field at the Waste Management is very, very tough. But if he goes down and plays half as good as he did in that final round 4 days in a row, he's in it. And he's fearless. Yeah. Like, you don't get 6 birdies in 7 holes because you're playing safe. Like, the guy, he's good. He's been knocking on the door for a while. I really, really like him for this course. I mean, anybody can win it this week. It's going to be so hard because you have Scheffler. Even though Scheffler seems to be falling off a little bit, he's still great. But he's
just going to... Yeah.
You pick Scheffler? Scheffler?
No, I was just going to say, like, it's funny how Scheffler is no longer considered a dark horse pick, but he kind of is. And I was just going to say that exact same thing. Like, this is where he started to heat up last year. And, he ripped off those wins, but then he was kind of quiet the rest of the season. I mean, he was in contention. But, he kind of like, again, I was going to say left the winner's circle or slumped, but it's hard to say you slump after you win 4 times in a year.
Yes.
But I think, like, the season's heating up. This is like the first of the elevated events, or now they're called designated events. I don't know why they changed the term, something, but like, I think the waste management was kind of always just like I felt like it used to be not that stacked of a field, and it's kind of like risen steadily in popularity. I mean, it's always been popular, but just kind of like popularity among like the top dogs on the tour. And now they all kind of have to come and play, which I think
it has a lot to do
awesome.
I think it's combating live is why, though, because you got to think waste management is probably one of the most fun events on the PGA Tour. So if PGA Tour wants to compete with live, that's why they probably made it a designated event, is because they want the star power there, along with all the crazy partying and everything like that. Like, it is going to be a major event. And it's going to be great for golf, because imagine what the Waste Management now being a designated event is going to be one of the biggest events in golf. It's going to sell out even quicker than it already has. I mean, it's going to be, the energy is going to be fantastic. And it's their Super Bowl weekend. It's going to be out of control. It's going to be nuts.
It's going to be unreal.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah. I can't wait to watch that for 4 days.
Me too. I know our friend Bobby Funkhauser will probably be there in person since he lives in Scottsdale. I know last year he was there, so I can't wait to get that. We might have to have him on next week just to see if he was inside the ropes.
Yeah, if he remembers any of it.
Right. Yeah, that dude can fall like bass backwards into cool things. So who knows, he might go from Sunday 18th hole to the Super Bowl. You never know what that guy's going to get himself into. So Bobby, if you're watching, say that again.
You know how you got the tickets, right? The first time? Patrick
Cantley's
chef. And he was walking around with Justin Thomas's parents.
Yeah, I don't know if we're supposed to say this, but we are talking about it. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's out of the bag.
I don't know.
It was just a cool hookup.
That's out of the bag, yeah. So
he was telling everybody no win.
Bobby or well, if Patrick's listening, if Bobby's listening, or if Patrick's chef is listening, we wouldn't mind 2 extra tickets and accommodation to the Waste Management Open. And the Super Bowl, if you have those too. We're not picky. So okay. So Waste Management, you're going Denny McCarthy. I guess I'm going Scotty Scheffler, although I don't know if he's going to work. If I don't know if he's going to, I'd like to see the state of his game since he's kind of been off. I mean, I know he was in Maui, but we'll see. I don't really have. I feel like I pick Morikawa. I feel like last year I always am like, probably Morikawa this week. So I feel like I kind of just can't pick Morikawa every weekend, but he was like I kind of just like jumped on his back and tried to ride it all season. So, and of course he had kind of an off year. So,
I felt bad for the guy.
He still did pretty well.
I mean, he won. He already has 2 majors, and he went to not winning anything at all. That's going to mess with your head a little bit. Then he choked at the Century Tournament of Champions, which was heartbreaking to watch. But in Rahm's defense, he went out and shot like a 61 or 62, so he did definitely earn that win. But that's gonna burn a little bit longer than a normal loss. Let's put it that way.
Right, it's just hard to bet against Jon Rahm right now. Just hard to say he's not going to win anything.
One legitimately bad round.
Who I'm going to be rooting for more than anybody else is Tom Kim. He's going
to thrive in that atmosphere. Oh my God, that alone, the energy there alone, could take him to victory easily.
Yeah, I want some President Cup fist bumps from him this week, and then I also just can't imagine if he could like somehow ace 17.
Oh God.
I don't know if they're allowed to throw beer though, because I don't think he's of age.
They'd probably do it anyways. Hell, I'll be throwing beer in my basement. I'll just pick one up and chug it if he aces 17. I'll start the party down here.
Put a hole in my drywall.
I'm gonna open up the windows, start shouting at people. It's gonna be crazy. So yeah, no, I like Tom.
Now I really want to see that happen more so than anything else.
I'll record it. I'll put it on my.
So he's my pick.
That's a solid pick. I just alone for the energy alone, it's a solid pick, 100%. Interesting, going from Waste Management to let's go to the Saudi tournament. Bryson has a stealth 2 in the bag, which I found very interesting. I think Cobra's officially done with him, which is I can understand why. And it's interesting too because
maybe the biggest golf news of the day.
Yeah, so far at least. Norman was a Cobra guy, and maybe he's still on with him. I don't know. But
I think he is.
He is? I mean, he didn't play anymore.
I think so.
He didn't play anymore.
I'm going to double check that.
But he has a stealth 2 in the bag. And I think I read a quote from he just needs to not talk, in my opinion. Is like when he said the Augusta was a par 68. He was like, I feel like I'm right there to be dominant again. Then he doesn't even make the cut. In a Saudi event. Like, come on, guys. Like, Abraham Answer won, and I like Answer. I was sad to see him go, but they got Sebastian Munoz. He went over to live now too, and that kind of I like Sebastian. I always liked him. I was happy to see him win last year for the first time. at the beginning of the year.
Right.
Kind of sad to see him go because I thought he has some PGA Tour potential. But yeah, no, Saudi tournament answer one. Bryson with the Stella too is so interesting to me because I feel like he helped design. I mean, or at least I was under the impression he was helping them design these drivers. So why?
Yeah, it seems like a 180 for sure.
Yeah, like why aren't you playing the driver that you? Maybe he wasn't behind the Aerojet. They may have already kind of taken a step back before then, but even then, like,
it sounds like he was not part of club design.
He wasn't part of what?
I just said it sounds like he wasn't part of club design based on what I was reading.
That might be why I like it better.
Yeah.
Might be where the Aerojet's better than the LTD. Just say it.
Just
and
saying.
DJ.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's hard to. I mean, I can't imagine wanting to like work with an athlete who publicly is just like, these guys can't get what I need. Like,
he was shitting all over.
They don't seem to be trying.
He was so disrespectful.
Yeah. So I don't know how good of a.
He would disrespect him, then he'd go and win a tournament. He's like, I got to thank Cobra for all their support. I'm like, dude, no one's buying what you're selling. And I actually had a thought here too.
Yeah.
This is kind of off topic.
Yeah, go for it.
Bryson remember that the match with Bryson and Phil?
Yes.
They were on the same team? Okay. After that, so the whole thing came out that they were poaching players from the PGA Tour, and I have a feeling it was mostly Phil. And he had that match with Bryson. And did you notice right after that, he started putting that arm lock putter in his bag?
I did not notice that.
He did. And I don't know if that was a Bryson thing or if that was a, hey, I bring you over here. I'll play the putter. I feel like there was somewhat of a business transaction of why he was doing that. And Phil's apparently back down to like his high school weight or some college weight or something like that. He's super skinny now.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he can play good golf.
I saw a picture of him. It's pretty wild. It was kind of unsettling.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not the only one that thought that then. Okay. Because I saw that picture. I was like,
no.
Like,
yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's like good, I guess, kind of, but he just like looks a little, I don't know.
Like he hasn't used enough step lock in his life. This is kind of what it looks like. And no disrespect to Phil. Like he's done amazing things for the game of golf, but like the dude's kind of freaking me out right now. He has a special coffee now too that he sells. I'm very interested in that because it's like stacked with all these things for focus and not jittery, and he drinks it all day. And he probably just did another freaking like 3-week fast or something like that to lose all the weight. It'll be back by the end of the year.
Right. Yeah. As soon as he finishes like plus 22 in these live events, he'll give up trying to be another thing. Fresh start. We'll see how it goes.
Oh, for sure. But it makes me wonder.
I actually really like Phil Mickelson. I always have, and I just kind of feel like his, whereas like Tiger Woods is like ending his career on like an uptick, Phil is just kind of his like Phil, legacy is just going to kind of be remembered like way down here. I just think it's sad. See,
for Phil, I feel like it's like his true colors finally came out. And I've always been suspicious of the guy. And I'm one of, like, every time I say this to people, they look at me like I have 3 heads. Like, oh, you know what you're talking about? I'm like, dude, there's something about the guy that is just kind of, he comes off very two-faced, very political to me, very just not the guy. And Tiger, in his defense, why he was such a jerk for so long, he was so focused. Like, he would go out and win a tournament, wake up, and then go hit golf balls for 6 hours the next day. Like, he had no time for all the pleasantries and all the other stuff. And everyone's like, well, there's no reason for him to be a jerk. And I'm like, he was never really a jerk. He just didn't give you the information you wanted. He didn't tell the press things about his personal life. He didn't voice his opinion. He let his clubs do the talking. He's like, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to beat everybody. That's all you need to know. Yeah. And that's all we needed to know. You know what I mean? So I think people were just upset because of his demeanor and that, which is, I get it, but like, I name one athlete that has been dominant. I mean, I'm talking like Tiger Woods dominant, Michael Jordan dominant. That was like also a friendly personality as well. In order to reach that level of greatness, like that, it just, I mean, like Hall of Fame, top athlete of all time.
Yeah.
You have to sacrifice something. The first thing that usually go is kind of all the BS conversations in between, like what we're doing right now. I should be hitting golf balls in my garage.
I would say Tom Brady, maybe the closest.
But there was a period in his career. I mean, there was a period in his career though where he was kind of standoffish a little bit.
So I mean, absolutely, and he's kind of like a tiger in that he's gotten like kind of softer as he's gotten older. Yeah. But I was just kind of like he's the closest to being like a little bit more relatable. You can say LeBron James a little bit, but I can't stand LeBron James. And
yeah, no, he's somebody that talks too much. He says too much.
He just like talks nonsense. Yeah. Did you see the whole thing about LeBron James like lying?
Oh my gosh, yeah, he just says what people want him to say. He's a puppet. He's absolutely a puppet. I think it's the biggest difference.
So wild. It's like I went down this rabbit hole the other night on YouTube about like LeBron James and lying, and it's just like he has been caught in all these like just like the random stupidest things that doesn't even make any sense for you to lie about. I had no idea this existed, and then I went down this rabbit hole, and there's just like clip after clip after clip of like just the randomest stuff, like reading a book, but like hasn't like advanced in the book at all, and then says it's his like favorite book of all time, but then like can't actually talk about the book. It's just wild.
Yeah, to me, he's always been a bit of a puppet, and there's always that conversation between who's the GOAT, Michael Jordan and him. And this is my thing: is Michael Jordan didn't lose. He never missed the playoffs. I mean, we went to the Wizards, yeah, but that's a different. When he was with the Bulls, LeBron has never done what Michael Jordan has done. I don't care about how many points you score. I mean, that's like looking at measuring a professional golfer. Like, oh, whoever has the most birdies in their career is the greatest. I'm like, no, who has the most majors? Who has the most championships? I mean, Jordan won year after year. I mean, it was unreal what he did. LeBron, LeBron never did that. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm not saying LeBron's bad. He's a freak of nature. To be that big and to do all the things he can do is insane. He's an amazing athlete. He's an amazing basketball player. One of the greatest of all time. Sure. But as far as the GOAT goes and the hopping around teams, and it just, you can't, I mean, we're comparing apples and oranges, obviously, because I think Michael Jordan back in the day, Michael Jordan prime, LeBron prime, one-on-one, I think LeBron could probably take him just because he's so big. But that's not what it's about. It's about being a leader. It's about being an example. It's about taking your team to championships. It's about sacrificing yourself and those things. That's what greatness is. And I feel like LeBron he's a little bit of a crybaby. When things don't go his way, he's like, I want to trade. They're talking about him leaving LA. Like, are you, what are you doing? Like, right. What he needs to do is go back to Cleveland, win a championship, and retire. That's what he needs to do.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, then he never have to hear about him ever again. I'd be more than okay with that. I don't know how we got on basketball, but
I was gonna say we're a golf podcast that has gone on to basketball, and
but Bryson himself, it makes me wonder. I want to know why he settled on that driver. I wonder if there's an interview out there. Why is he hitting the Stealth 2?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because I'll tell you one thing about TaylorMade, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I think like one thing they've kind of nailed is like distance when you hit the center of the face.
Oh yeah,
is just like a rocket, right? And I think because of that, I think that's the reason is because he can get his like tour specs, like down to 5.5 degrees. Mm-hmm. And I mean, love him or hate him, like Bryson's going to hit the center of the face. And so I think that's really it, is like he's finally realizing like, yeah, TaylorMade has it figured out. If I don't have a thing with Cobra anymore, like I'm going to at least go with the driver that I don't think he cares about accuracy.
That's obvious.
So I think he's just looking for like what ball when I hit it on the face is going to give me the best results. And I think that might be the Stealth too. I mean, again, I know we talked a lot about episode 1 of like regular golfers need to think about more than just that. But I think, a lot of these guys don't have to think about what happens when I hit it on the heel or the toe, because they're rarely going to do that. So I think Bryce is just like, this is a piss rocket when I hit it in the center of the face.
Yeah. And he's probably playing that LA golf ball now too. Or I know it's still in prototype, but I don't know how much they're really going to change the ball. So he's probably going to put that ball in play as well. He'll be hitting bombs, but can he win? And then again, if winning on LIV as prestigious as winning on the PGA Tour, that's always the thing, and there's this thing out now like, PGA, we need a PGA versus LIV. And Phil's like, Phil's already trash talking it. And the thing is like, everyone knows now that Phil is just pimping it. And nobody wants to see him. And also, I think the reason why they won't do it, at least now, I mean, they won't do it while they don't coexist. Now they learn to coexist, I can almost guarantee what's going to happen. And I would love that. 'Cause I would love to see Rory, Tom Kim, Justin Thomas, Siwoo all on the same team. Like, Liv doesn't stand a chance. There's no way in hell Liv takes that, just to let you know. But, it would be cool to see it. But Phil is just pimping. Everyone just knows he's talking trash, he's trying to get it right. But they're not going to do it unless they coexist. Because if the PGA decides to do it, that means they're giving Liv the time of day. And they're not going to do that. They learn to coexist. I would love to see a Liv versus PGA Tour, and I want to see the PGA Tour stomp them into ground. And that way that we can sit here and go, okay, wait, where do the best players in the world play again? I thought it was the PGA Tour. And that might actually stop people from going to Liv, being like, no, I want to play against the best over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it seems like it already has a little bit. Like where, last year there was this whole exodus, and it seemed like for a while every week we were getting a new semi big name or big name to go to Liv. I mean, Cam Smith goes, which was a huge loss for the PGA Tour, but lately we haven't really had a ton of people move over to Liv, and the season's starting, so I don't know. There was kind of this prediction that once everything got settled and the FedEx got done so these guys could earn their money, we'd see a ton before the next season started, and we just haven't really seen that. I mean, I know you said Sebastian Munoz. You can argue about how big of a name that is. Right. But I don't see a ton of other guys going to Liv. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the future of that looks like as far as getting guys. I mean, I don't know if they're going to – I know they've been obviously aiming at more international players.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if they'll continue to get more of those European guys or if they're really going to kind of focus on getting people from college, which I know is happening. Some of the top college players have already signed to Liv. So yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what their kind of plan is. I think a Liv PGA Tour would be great for us, the fans. I would love to see Cam Smith dueling it out versus Rory, and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's interesting. I just feel like Liv has kind of lost a little bit of steam. So I guess we'll see what happens when they kind of start their season back up again. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with Liv. It does seem like the well's running dry for them a little bit. I mean, they have the CW11 deal, which they probably paid for. I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to burn out completely, but I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out in the long run. If you can't get the big stars over there, it's going to be a problem. They have literally no real star power. I mean, other than, Cameron Smith. And even him, an argument can be made for Cameron Smith that he just had a really great year. We don't know if he was going to be a consistent competitor on tour. We never got that opportunity. Yes, he was trending upwards for a few years. He was kind of trending on like how, who won last week? I'm already forgetting. Not Justin Rose, the week before that.
Max Homa.
Max Homa, yeah. Kind of trend. He has the same Max Homa trend. Where year after year, he gets a little bit better, and he's inching. Then he finally started closing the door on some deals. But we only got a short look at that. I feel like we never really established that he was going to be a consistent competitor on the PGA Tour. I think he would have been. I mean, his putting is scary. He's a very clutch golfer. But at the same time, we don't know if he would have been able to consistently compete with these big names on tour. He could have been like anybody else. He had a hot year or two, and that was it. We don't have enough data to sit here and say that he would have been a star. Winning the 150th Open.
No, I think that
right.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the only difference between him and Homa is he won like the Players and then went and won the Open and competed along the way. Not to take anything away from Homa, but I think the writing on the wall was pretty clear for Cam Smith. Although, like you said, only time tells those things, and anybody can have a good year or two. So
there's been a bunch of up and comers that have.
I think he's still the biggest loss. I think. Yeah.
Oh, he was the biggest loss by far. I mean, everyone else I really could care less about. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't care about Bubba, Reed, Bryson, Phil. Like they don't do anything for me. You know what I mean? It's actually kind of nice to not have to deal with their drama every week on the PGA Tour because there's always something with them. Like it was. Yeah,
Dustin Johnson was a pretty big name.
Yeah,
that was a pretty big name.
Koepka's kind of fallen off with the injury, and apparently there's some good stuff on that Netflix show about him struggling, wondering if he's ever going to have his game back and stuff like that because of his injury. And that was kind of hard to see Koepka go, but near the end there, he was kind of I wouldn't say he was more of an ass than usual, but you could just, I don't know. I feel like he was, the whole major conversation was a very interesting thing because it was always like, oh, I'm only here to win majors. I'm like, I get that, but like, man, like you've done it. Like he did some incredible things, but like, I don't know if that really makes you a dominant golfer. Like you're scary in majors, but the rest of the tournaments you're non-existent. Like I don't know. I feel like it's not well-rounded enough for me. But then again, I'm sitting here on a podcast talking about him. Who the hell am I?
Right. I mean? Yeah, I know. Exactly right. But I've never really been a Koepka fan for the same reasons. Like I heard him give an interview, has to be a couple years now, where he was basically saying, like, I don't really even like golf that much. I'm just really good at it. So if I could like watch or pay attention to any other sport, I would over golf.
He's a big NBA fan.
I've always hated that attitude, that like cocky, like I'm just too good to be here. Yeah, you know, I'm just here because I'm good, but I don't really care. And that's that's the vibe I get from Brooks is like, if it's not 4 weeks a year, he like could care less if he's competing or not. Mm. He just knows that he's good at it, so he's just gonna do it. He's like, you know, I'm good looking. I got a smoking hot wife. I got a lot of money, so it doesn't really matter what I do. So I don't know. I can't stand that. Like, I don't know. That whole just like mindset drives me bonkers. And it's just kind of like exactly what you're saying, like not well-rounded enough. Like if you're just going to show up to the majors and not give, you know, a rat's ass about the rest of it, then I'm out on that.
Yeah, 100%. No, I'm not. I mean, I never disliked him because I loved watching him compete in majors. It was fun to just see him out of nowhere just pop up and he had the math right. He was like, I know if I do these things, I will win. And he followed the game plan and he did it. It was unreal. It was unreal.
Yeah.
By the way, did you get a look at Shane Lowry's bag?
No.
He did a what's in the bag. Beautiful setup. Going back to the whole Strixon thing. He's actually gaming the ZX5 driver. I figured he would have been in the ZX7. Yeah, but he has a ZX5, Z7s, through Cleveland wedges, the whole deal. But the CX7s are just beautiful. But that's not the point. The driver surprised me a little bit. I thought he'd be in the ZX. I mean, just being a tour player, you figured to be in the tour head. But that ZX5, that LS is a very forgiving, low spinning driver. It is a monster. I cannot wait for you to hit it because you're going to fall in love with it, Ryan. I'm warning you. You're going to hit it and go, what the hell? Like you don't expect.
I've already been trending towards Strixon love, so.
Oh yeah, a lot of love for Strixon on this channel, 100%, or on this page podcast.
100%. Yeah. No, I mean, and for a good reason. Like they're just making good stuff. Again, it's hard to argue with like the performance of things, and so I know that you guys loved him at the PGA show. I know we talked Strixon a lot last week, so we don't have to kind of like reopen that whole debate. But yeah, I'm kind of drooling to hit the ZX5 LS driver and the new fairway woods. And I've heard the ball, like the pro ball, is it the Diamond, the ZX Star Diamond or something like that.
Something like that.
I've heard it's a really good ball that doesn't get enough credit. I mean, a lot of people play it, so I'd be interested to see.
I was tinkering with the ZX5, I believe. I had one ball, I found it. I was like, oh, I'll play this for a few holes. And I actually really liked it. And traditionally, I don't like Strixon balls. They always felt, this sounds weird, they always felt kind of heavy to me. They always felt, I don't know, like, it just didn't, it felt like it was coming off the face slow, if that makes sense, which makes no sense because they're one of the longest balls on tour. There's a reason why Cam Champ plays it and everything like that. So obviously it's not a short golf ball, but it just never felt right to me. But their newer golf balls, I will say, are very, very nice, and they're definitely worth a shot, especially the price point. I mean, you can't really beat what you're getting for the dollar there.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a whole show on golf balls because I would just love to like kind of dive deep one day about like, is there a huge difference between like this manufacturer and this manufacturer? Like how different, kind of like we talked about clubs a little bit, and I know we'll get into it more as the podcast goes on, but like how different technology, like does a Callaway or a Titleist, which is like the number one ball in golf forever, do they really have a technology or something that they do differently than the rest of the market? Or are they really more going on brand name, you know, or, I mean, pick any ball. I'd be really interested to kind of like dive deep on that because I know a little bit, but I don't know everything. So I'd love to research that.
I think with the golf balls, I think you're splitting hairs more than anything, and I think it's more about, do you have a golf ball for everyone? Because you got to think that the average golfer is, I mean, that's the advantage of having the Pro V1 is anybody can play the Pro V1. And it's meant for that. But that's the advantage of having the Pro V1 is that alone. But I think if you look at, if you were to hit the same version of said golf ball across every manufacturer, I don't think you would see a dramatic difference. You would see some difference, of course. I think what it comes down to is how does it feel off the putter? And that's the one thing that the pros look for. They want to know how it feels coming off the putter around the green. That is our number one priority. The rest, I mean, you got to think when you're hitting a golf ball, you're swinging 115, 120. You're going to feel it, but it's not as important as whenever you have those soft shots around these greens or those delicate putts. Like, you need a golf ball that feels soft. They want a golf ball that feels soft around the greens. So I think that's going to be the biggest difference that you're going to see and probably what people are looking for. And I think it's just a huge feel thing. I mean, and I completely understand it because there's some things. I actually having a conversation with a buddy of mine today about if I end up going back to Callaway irons, what I should play, because I want something like the ZX7s. And he goes, probably like the TCBs or the CBs. Like, why not the Apex Pros or the Rogues? And for me, it's a feel thing. It is like the hollow heads just don't feel right to me. And that was my problem with the P790, the driving iron that I have. I just don't like that hollow feel. I like that just clunk of metal forged feel. And it's just, are the results maybe better with other irons? Maybe, but I can't feel the ball the way that I want to feel it. Then it doesn't make it, I'm not going to play the way I could be playing because the confidence just goes out the window. You know what I mean? So I think it comes down to feel more than anything. What feels good to you around there? And that's why Ricky switched to the TP5 during the Ryder Cup, I believe. He was partnered with DJ for an alternate shot, and he was hitting the TaylorMade, and he loved it. He loved how it felt, and so he made the switch. Sorry, while I was telling the story, it reminded me back during the Ryder Cup, Tiger Woods, and when Tiger Woods and Phil were teamed up together, like right before that Ryder Cup, Phil apparently switched golf balls, and Tiger hated the golf ball he switched to. And I don't know if Phil did it maliciously or not, but it to be fair, if we were to look at historically Phil, you can't help but feel like maybe he did it on purpose. Like, just you can't rule it out. Let's put it that way. You can't rule it out.
Right. No, you absolutely can't.
But it's an absolute feel thing. I think golf balls is more feel. I think the difference, the spin rates, the distances, we're talking a yard or two, maybe 100 to 200 RPMs max. I think it's just feel. And also, like we kind of talked about last week, what angle are you coming in at the ball and all these things? It's going to feel different for everybody. You know what I mean? And also, what have you grown up playing? What are you used to? What are you looking for? So I think a lot of people are drawn to that more than anything. Or they're just paying them a whole lot of money to play the golf ball, which that is completely understandable.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that a lot of it. I was more thinking about, like, you know, we've read a lot about lately. I mean, like when I was growing up, you just like found a golf ball and hit it, or you just bought golf balls and hit them. It didn't really matter. And now I know a lot of the talk about ball fitting is, you know, it's not necessarily as important which brand you're playing, but like find a ball and stick to it so that your game is consistent.
Yep.
Which I've like really tried to do, because I think for a long time I would just be like, well, this one's on sale, so I'm going to get that one, and this one's on sale, and haven't paid a ton of attention to how my ball like actually affects the consistency of my game. So I just think that's a super interesting thing. And I know Tiger talked about this a lot. I mean, just like he's a field player as well. Oh, yeah. And he's just like, you know, I use this ball because it does what I needed to do spin wise, or I use, you know, I know he's talked about using blades, and he's like, yeah, I could probably switch and get a few more yards, or that's not what I'm looking for. Like, I'm looking for my hands to interact with the club in a certain way. And I need it to do that so that I can hit the same shots every time, regardless of the distance. And another thing I thought about that was interesting is he's like, I want to be short if I miss, which I think is such a different mindset than amateur golfers have. They just want to be like, man, I'd rather be long. Like, it'd be nice to be long. And I know that's been talked about before, is like, you know,
be short. Because
how many amateur golfers are ever like over clubbing, which I know is a kind of a different argument. But Tiger's like, well, I want to miss. If I'm going to miss, I want to miss short, which is different coming from Tiger because he's going to hit his number most of the time. than an amateur golfer, but it's just a different mindset than we hear, which I thought was interesting.
Well, for me, that's actually something that I adopted in my game about 2 years ago was I'm going to start missing short if I'm going to miss anywhere. And the reason being, at least my reason for it is most greens traditionally run back to front. So that means if I'm long, now I have to chip one down the hill. I would much rather be a little short and have an uphill putt or an uphill pitch than a downhill putt or a downhill pitch. And the moment I started doing that, it changed things a lot because I found that my misses were a lot better because I was able to save myself more from my misses because I was missing short and pitching up opposed to pitching back. And I think that's maybe everybody's
on the ground sooner and let it run, right?
Yeah, exactly. You pull out that 8-iron and just let it run up there. Like golf is a game of misses, miss less than the other guy. So that was a big difference in my game personally. And but at the same time, though, a big problem that amateurs have, though, is or at least the pros will say, is they don't take enough club because they all try to muscle it. You know what I mean? And and it's just, and I used to be traditionally I always heard that tip, like, make sure you take enough club, take extra club, make sure you take enough club. Well, once you fly so many greens, and also trouble is typically behind the green. You have trees, you have water, you have all kinds of crap. I'd rather be 15 yards short of the green and pitching up and getting up and down than taking a penalty stroke. Weird uphill lie out of the rough, trying to go downhill, it's a nightmare for most golf courses if you're trying for course management, at least from that perspective. So I think being a little short, what I like to do is I'll read the front of the green there's a word for it. I can't think of it right now. I'll read that number and I try to make that my my minimum number. Like say flag is 175, but front of the green is like 168. I'm going to hit my 170 club that I know is not going to go more than 178. And I'm going to smooth it out. You know what I mean? I'm just going to get myself around that green. And more times than not, I'm going to hit the green. But I'm going into it with the idea, like, if I miss, my miss is going to be like, oh, I caught it a little heavy, or I did this, and it's going to end up short, and maybe it spun a little too much on me, that I can just pitch up and get my par. But if I hit the 175 number, so now I'm choking down on a 7-iron, I nuke it, next thing you know, I'm taking a penalty stroke, and I have all kinds of hell to pay, then I'm all pissed off walking off the green.
Interesting. How often would you say that you're over greens? How do I want to ask this question? Because I know you're not. Let's say before you made that adaptation, what is your percentage of you were past the pin versus short of the pin before you made that conscious choice?
Oh, it was a lot. I was notorious for flying greens, but also I was always pin seeking, and that was more the ego and the arrogance. It was me like, no, I'm going to hit that number. I'm going to land it exactly on that number, and it's going to stop on that green. Well, sometimes it would bounce next to the pin and bounce off, or I'd catch a little bit on the bottom groove. It's a little too thin, and it gets an extra 2 or 3 yards out of it. Or I'd nuke it. I can't tell how many times I've gone over greens, and I've just been so pissed off. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to club down. And people are like, that's not enough club. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I can't. If I take another penalty stroke, because that's the downfall of my game is penalty strokes. That's the one thing that always gets me. It's me hitting one way out of bounds or catching a hazard or something like that. If I could get rid of penalty strokes, I'd be a scratch golfer like that. But so I started to okay, well, I'm playing away from the trouble. I'm trying to land it short. And at first my scores weren't good because it's a totally different game that I'm playing. I'm not familiar with it. And mentally it kind of wreaks a little bit of havoc on you. But once you start getting the confidence with it and you start to, okay, well, maybe I can go after this 8-iron a little bit more. I know I can't go long. Then the confidence builds. And then you start getting better results. But it takes, like anything golf, it takes a lot of time and a lot of change. Like I'm going through a minor grip change right now, and it is a pain in the ass. And it's like a millimeter move of my hand. But it feels so terrible. So I'm like down in my basement with a golf club, just doing this all night, just trying to get used to it. Yeah. But once I get that club back here, the face is in a totally different position, and I can feel it. And I just I don't know where this ball's going to go. Because I don't know what this face angle is right here. So my miss went from being a pull hook to now it's going to a pushy cut. And I'm like, okay, well, that's just because now I need to fire through a little bit more because I'm so used to coming over the top. Now it's coming into the slot, and my face, my wrists aren't releasing. I'm not squaring the head. So I know what the problem is. This is a matter of putting in the time. And now that I have that little makeshift simulator in my garage, I have all the time in the world to fix it. which, by the way, I did want to talk about that. I already put in my Instagram story. For anyone listening, I just built a makeshift simulator in my garage. Our buddies Justin Flaws and Kyle Emery have done it as well. And actually, Kyle's the one that actually inspired me to do it because he said he posted this awesome. Do you see his reel that he posted of his simulator in his garage?
Who?
You need to look at this. Like the dude, he doesn't post that often, but when he does, I wish I could post some of the things that he posts. Like because he's.
Are you talking about Justin?
No, Kyle.
Oh, Kyle. Yeah. I did see that. Yes.
He's so meticulous. Like I had him film me do the Monroe Club review, and his attention to detail is so much better than mine. Because I'm like, fuck it, let's just go. I don't care. Like I just wing it the entire time. But his reel is awesome, and I saw his whole setup. I'm like, okay, I need to buy it. I need a net. And so he's the one that inspired me to buy the net, and I finally got it. I've been sitting in all this stuff forever. My garage is like a dust. If hell was made of dust, it'd be my garage, and I'm highly allergic to dust. So I'm out there like with a mask on and a beanie, and I'm all like I look like a bandit. Like you said, I look like a criminal out there. But I can't. I need to like hose the whole thing out and like bleach it and just go balls to the wall. But anyways, not the point. All in all, I probably didn't even spend $1,000 on this simulator. So I got a net for like $90. And it actually came with the hitting mat, but I already had a hitting mat that I was sitting on for I don't even know how long at this point. And so I have the hitting mat, which you can get a decent hitting mat for what, $50-$60 probably. And then the net was $90. And then the R10 was $600. And if you set it up right, now the RCT golf balls, do you have the RCT balls or no?
I don't yet. No, I've been thinking about getting them, but I don't have them. I just use like real golf balls, like a TP5. Well, if you guys have seen my setup on Instagram, I don't have it in my garage. I have it in my backyard because I have like a huge like field like built-in thing. But I will have a net out there, and sometimes I'll just hit into the field, and so I'll use real golf balls if I'm hitting into the net, like actual like TP5, TP5X, like this year's model. So I get like kind of the best feedback. But I really want to try those RTC golf balls.
Yeah, so apparently Justin and Kyle both told me that they are a lot more accurate. And they say that, but even tonight, whenever I was once I got the R10 positioned in the right place and I was doing my thing with it, I felt like my numbers weren't that off. There was a couple that I felt that didn't add up, and that was just from a feel perspective. I just didn't feel like the ball did what it felt like it did, and I feel like I'm usually right with that. I played a lot of night golf as a kid. That was one of my favorite things to do with my dad. We like 36 holes in a day. The last two holes were always like almost pitch black. It was a par 3 down a hill, and the last hole, 18. Crazy par 5. It's a golf course called Ambrier in Waterloo, Illinois. One of the best public courses I've ever played in my entire life. No houses on the course. Mad respect for that. If a golf course is listening, stop building houses on your golf course, all right? Numerous reasons for it. One, it's a hazard. Two, the people that live there have unrealistic expectations of what it's like to live in a golf course. And I have to pee on a golf course sometimes. And too many houses, that poor little old lady. There's no saving her at this point. But stop building houses on your golf course. But anyways, 18 it's a par 5. It goes out. There's a bunker on the right. It drifts off down a hill into the woods on the left. It goes out to about like 280. Then it drops down rough and then fairway again. And the rest of the hole kind of goes up and kind of around. I had to play that in the dark as a kid.
Nice.
So you hit the ball, you feel it with your hands, and you listen. And you listen for that thump. You're like, okay, that's in the fairway. Next shot, though, was even because the next shot even got more narrow. There's trees on your right and your left. So we had to finish that out in the dark. So I played a lot of night golf as a kid, so I have a lot of good feel when it comes to those things. So I would suggest getting the golf balls with it, which I think they're like $60-$70 a dozen for them. But I mean, you're hitting them in your garage or into a net, so it's not like you're going to lose them. And if you lose them, then you might need a new hobby. But
like, ain't no hobby.
Ain't no hobby. There you go. But no, it's a great setup, and also if it's great to just run drills on. Like I'm out there, I'm working on my swing plane. I'm working on a slower backswing. I'm working on my grip. Whenever you're working on drills, you're not going to get the results from the golf shot you want immediately. You need to get your body used to the motion. You need to get comfortable with it. And what better way to do that than in your own house or garage? That way, when you go to the range, you can implement those things that you've been working on and you're not pissing $10 away in a bucket of golf balls just to see you hit terrible golf shots the entire time. Because that's what
100%.
happens to me. I go out there, I'm like, well, I have 75 golf balls to figure my golf swing out. That's not going to happen. And then I end up being defeated when I leave there, or maybe I have way too good of a session and I just walk out thinking like, oh, I can't be beat. You're not working on anything, you know? I mean, if you have a golf course membership or a driving range membership, different conversation. This obviously doesn't apply to you. But if you're willing to spend up to $1,000, you can build a dope little makeshift simulator in your garage. And we have all the details. So you can DM either one of us and on our Instagram. He's Ryan Hernandez Golf, PGR Scratch Golf. DM us. We know how to do all of this stuff. I mean, we've gotten really good at it too. It's not like we're kind of winging it. Like we actually know what we're doing with this time.
And I would add to that, film yourself if you can. I know that's one of the things that we always are doing is we always have a camera rolling behind us or, you know, like down the line or straight ahead, just because like I know for me, and I know that P is the same way, is that like some days you'll go out to the range and like you're saying like, oh, I'm feeling like I'm hitting the ball well, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your like mechanics are good. You're just either like
timing. You're just timing
the club head in the right spot, or you know, like because you can have a good day without having that great of a swing. And I know that I've been the victim of that sometimes. Sometimes even when I get too steep, but I can still like save it just because you know, like believe it or not, I have some natural athletic ability. And so like there are days when I can like save it and it feels good, like the strike is good, but the swing is still like you're saying, you're not improving. So make sure that the feels and the reels like are lining up, because I know a lot for me, like I was like, man, that really feels like I'm getting the club under and in the slot. And then you go look at the video and it's like, you're casting a fishing rod. So, so video yourself is what I would add to that. I also use the R10. I really like it. You do have to fiddle with it a little bit just because like you were saying, when I first got it, it was like way off. I was hitting a driver like 170 yards, and clearly that's not accurate. But once I got like all of the maths and arrangements and distances figured out, it started to get pretty accurate. Especially for, you know, like a pocket sized, you know, like
you can take it to the range
monitor where
you can take it to the range with you. You can use it indoors. Like you can use it absolutely anywhere. And going back to what you were saying about filming your golf swing, I actually watched a golf pro talk about this the other day. He was saying you might feel like you're doing something, but that doesn't mean that's what you're doing.
Right, 100%.
Film your golf swing. Always film your golf swing. If you want to, you can send it to us, and we can do our best to try to help you too. But what you're feeling is not always the same thing as what you're actually doing. And for most amateur golfers, and I mean this is the most respectful way possible, especially with modern day technology, feel, in my opinion, is becoming a little bit of a lost art. I don't think many golfers know what they're feeling anymore. They just know a lot of times these clubs now are so forgiving, and that's a great thing for beginner golfers and amateur golfers, that you can get away with a lot of bad swings now. Where when I was growing up, I was playing like old blades of persimmon woods. You didn't get away with anything. Actually, I want to go out and play a round of golf with those old clubs too, just to see how miserable I'll be out on the golf course.
Right. But I think I'd break a wooden head for sure now.
Dude, no, I can nuke a persimmon wood, and it feels amazing. And I don't know if you knew this. That's where the whole saying "hitting it on the screws" came from, because the old wooden persimmons had screws in the face. So you hit it on the screws. And I will say this: to this day, nothing feels as good as hitting a persimmon wood in the center of that face. It is the most satisfying feeling off.
I'll put it on our Instagram. My dad still has the old like persimmon wood with the 4 screws, like the first jumbo head that ever came out, but it's all wood, like jumbo head. So I'll try to find that picture and put it on our Instagram, because it's wild, but it's got the 4 screws, and it's just like, my dad's like, yeah, we just used to play these clubs. Like, okay.
I have an old Hogan, like 5 wood. I have I have a 2.5 wood that I stole from a simulator. To be fair, in my defense, I may have had way too much to drink that day. And I was at a simulator, and the ball went behind the curtain, and I went behind the curtain. They had all these old cheap clubs there, I guess for people that didn't have golf clubs. And as I'm grabbing my golf ball, I see this old 2.5 wood. And I'm like, well, I have to have that. And I just put it in my golf bag and left. So I don't think they did inventory on these golf clubs, so I wasn't really concerned about that.
Yeah.
But I also have like some old peeing persimmon woods as well. They feel great. I mean, they're heavier than hell, though. Steel shafts,
steel shafts,
heads. Yeah. Jesus. There's a one-way ticket to a slice every single time.
Dude, I grew up, my very first set of clubs was a steel shafted 3-wood, because there was like, I loved it as a kid. I mean, I don't know what I would do with it now, but I loved that club. That steel shafted 3-wood was just a fairway finder. Like, I felt like I could swing it at any speed. Felt like I could hit it 5 different distances. I loved that thing.
I had an old Steelhead 3 5-wood with a steel shaft in it. And another embarrassing story about me. I forgot to put the tailgate up in my dad's truck once. Dad, if you're listening to this, I know you'll never let me live that down. But I forgot to put the tailgate up, and we're driving down to Tennessee to go to see my grandparents. And somebody pulled up next to us and was like, hey, and my dad stopped, and we're just trying to find all the golf clubs where the 5-wood was lost in war. So, yeah. And I was playing Ping Eye 3 irons, too, and I think I lost some of those as well. Yeah, that was – yeah. I've never forgotten to down the highway. So I guess there's that. Every time me and my dad go golf, I get in the car, too, the truck, I'm like, tailgate up? He's like, I got the tailgate. Like,
that's awesome.
My dad's still a rock started.
Always.
Yeah, no, the persimmon woods were fantastic. I don't even know how we got on this topic. But, make sure you record your golf swing. Record it, because what you feel isn't always – going back to – I love that. And amateur golfers –
wood shafted putter.
Oh, that's a wood shafted putter. But amateur golfers, they don't know what they're feeling. And also, these clubs negate so much side spin, and they're so forgiving. They do all these things, which is great because it makes the game more enjoyable for a lot of people. It absolutely serves its purpose. My thing with it is, or my bugaboo would be, that it doesn't allow players to make as many mistakes as they need to make. And I think as a beginner golfer, you need to make those mistakes so you learn how to correct them and fix them. And this is if you want to be a good golfer. Now, if you're just going out there getting drunk with your buddies on the weekends, let's get you in some max heads and a draw bias driver to have a good time. Yeah. But if you're actively trying to improve your game, some of these clubs, they kind of deceive you a little bit. They're going to make you think you're a better ball striker than you are. They're going to make you think you hit the ball further than you do, because you're going to be hitting Maverick irons and say you're hitting your 7-iron 180 with that. Oh, you're like, okay, I'm ready for some CBs. Well, the 7-iron's not going 180 for you anymore. I mean, if you're a trained golfer and doing all the things right, then absolutely. But not a lot of people are doing that. So just make sure you film your swing. And if you're actively trying to get better, you need to take your medicine and go through some growing pains in order to get there.
Absolutely. I totally agree. 100%.
We always agree.
That's true. Yeah, I have. Yeah. It's part of the job.
This isn't a very contentious podcast.
I just stroke P's ego and we're good.
That makes me a happy guy.
Well, I got anything else?
No, I don't have any crazy fun facts for you today. I have nothing. So, hindsight, that's not the right word. Hindsight, let's go back a little bit. Picks for the Waste Management. We get 2 picks each. Who we think is going to win, who our dark horse is.
Okay.
Dark horse for me is Vinny McCarthy all day.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on a huge limb here and say that Rory is going to win it. And he's going to light it up. He's going to establish his dominance. And I would love to see Rory and Rahm in the final group. In a perfect world, that'd be amazing. Oh, God. Oh. You can't write better TV.
That's odd. That's a great choice. For me, I don't know. We can't consider a Scotty Scheffler a dark horse pick anymore, can we?
Not really, no. I mean, not after last year.
Really. Who is my dark horse pick this week? Oh man. That's tough. That's really tough. For me, let's see. Well, I'll go with Tom Kim is going to be my pick to win for sure. And then I think I'm going to go, this is a really dark horse pick. I'm going to go Callum Tarrant.
Oh, that's really dark.
Yeah. He's just been, he's been playing good golf. He's he's not killing it, but he's been making a bunch of cuts. And, I don't know. I just feel like he could contend. So I'd like to see him contend.
Scottsdale's gettable. It's a very gettable course. My dad's played it a couple times. He's broken 80 out there, I think, twice now. Obviously not tournament conditions. This is probably a little bit different, but from my understanding, Scottsdale isn't an overly tough golf course. I think that's what makes it so fun. They're probably going to see some really low scores, especially with the people out there. I mean, got to keep in mind, Justin Thomas is, there's so many people that can win it this week.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ride
Rory. Pick a dark horse with such a stacked field. Now that's an elevated event. It's going to be harder for those guys, but let's have some fun.
No, for sure. I mean, we had Rory winning at the end of 2022. First tournament of 2023, he won. Him and Rahm are trending in the right direction. And my only concern about that is the Ryder Cup is going to be brutal for the U.S. this year. Brutal.
Yeah. Well, it all depends on who they allow to play in the European Ryder Cup, too, though.
Oh, that'll be really interesting. We'll talk about that next time. I'm going to do some research on that one.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Episode 2 in the books. Whoever thought we'd get through 2, for all of you haters who thought we were one and done, we have 2 podcasts. So, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully back to our regularly scheduled Wednesday morning drops starting next week, but life is crazy. So thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next week. As always,
deuces.
Be kind to each other. See ya.
Spread love.